Steeler Nation. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We are back with another great episode of the Sick Podcast, Steeler Crazy. I am Jay York Football, and you guys look like right now you're about to sell me a brand new car, looking spiffy out there in the Steeler gear. How are you guys doing?
Fishman or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm good, man. We're happy. Obviously, Steelers got another W heading into the bye week 6-2. I'm not sure if our viewers remember legend over here, Danny Bencoma, one of our best guests we've had on this year. Seriously, breaking everything down. Former football player himself. So we're good, man. We're hanging. Happy we're 6-2.
Beyond belief, happy. Sitting at the top of the division, we talked about it when we first came in. Win the division. The most important thing is that those three other teams know that this is not theirs. The North belongs to us still.
Mm-hmm. And the whole thing is, too, with Steeler fans is they'll find anything to complain about. I don't know, going into a bye week, if you could imagine being 6-2, but here we are. Before we get started, I throw it back over to Mike. I want to give a big shout out to our people over at Manta Sleep. The only mask designed and optimized for the deepest sleep possible in any environment, 100% blackout. Be sure to use our code SICKSteelers. Again, that's SICKSteelers for 10% off. Mike?
Absolutely, man. One way to afford and still make some money on DraftKings Sportsbook because it promises to be a month of tricks, treats, and, of course, touchdowns in DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Is the number one place to bet touchdowns. If you're new to DraftKings, try betting on something simple like a player to score a touchdown. I know last night was great. Calvin Austin, 2 touchdowns. So you just never know who's going to score. That's a perfect example right there. So go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, make your pick. Here is a reason for new customers to do a touchdown dance of their own. Bet $5, Jordan, just $5. Can you believe this? To get 200 bonus bets instantly. It's the number one place to bet touchdowns. Make sure you use our code SICKSports. The crown is yours. Go ahead.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball.
Let's take it to the end zone.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Steelers Crazy.
Harris Smith shields. Blackout. Polamalu takes it home. Super Bowl 43. Pittsburgh might be bound for that thanks to number 43.
The sickest Pittsburgh Steelers podcast.
Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
First round pick in 1989, 7th overall in the NFL draft to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's still bleeding black and gold. We are excited to welcome in none other than running back Tim Worley. Tim, what's going on, man?
What's up, fellas?
Hey.
I'm switching hats up on you, man.
Let's see that, man. You got some serious swag going right now.
Yeah, man. I got a ton of Steeler gear, man. And I really like it. They take care of us when we come to training camp.
That's awesome, man. Well, listen, training camp is a good way to start this show as we jump into this, man. Obviously, you're still a big Steelers fan, but we talked about getting picked 7th overall in the draft. You were a Steelers fan growing up? That's the hot rumor?
Yeah. I grew up in North Carolina, guys. And back then, the 3 main stations, NBC, CBS, ABC, and my location in the region was, we got Steelers, we got Redskins, and we got the Dallas Cowboys. And so in my little community, you were either a Cowboy or a Steeler. And so most of the guys chose the Steelers, and we had a few knuckleheads that chose the Cowboys. So when I was 9 years old, man, I was a Steeler fan.
Heck yeah, man. We love it. And you get picked by the team of your choice, essentially. You are obviously, have some big expectations. Tell me about that first training camp. That's why I said it's a great transition. In Latrobe, tell me about this kind of welcome to the NFL moment and vibe that you had that first camp as a pro?
Well, guys, back then negotiation was pretty difficult. It wasn't automatic like it is today. Guys get drafted, and a week, maybe 2 weeks later, they're signed. Back then, we had to really go in and work and negotiate for the contract. And so, you guys, if you can remember, I missed all of camp my rookie year. I think I came into Latrobe and I was in camp for maybe 4 days, and got a chance to play in 1.5 preseason games, and then went right into the Cleveland game, and we all remember how that turned out.
This guy has got a photographic memory. He could tell you every play, probably every handoff you've ever taken in your entire life, and that we talk about it all the time. And he definitely helped a couple younger guys like myself and Jordan familiarize ourselves with your game. Danny, jump in. You got anything for Tim?
Great to be on the show again. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Team Sick Podcast. And Tim, my family grew up big Georgia Bulldogs fans for years. Two of my cousins, one of them played football early 80s, the other one played basketball. So I was raised to be a Bulldogs fan. So I got to meet Andre Hastings, one of your former teammates, back in a long time ago. A couple of other like Philip Bobo, Lindsey Scott for years upon years. But that 89 season was one of my favorite Steelers seasons because you mentioned that we didn't start off so hot first 6 games of the year, but by the back half, the way the defense, the offense, the special teams under Brister, you, Merrill Hodge, Walter Abercrombie, we were killing it. That playoff game against the Oilers where we won in overtime, right? And then just the 1-point loss to the Denver team the very next week when they went to the Super Bowl. So 89 is a great year for me as a person, as a fan. But you did great work out there. Watched you for many years towards your senior year. What was it, like 1,200 something, 16 yards, 17 touchdowns, first team All-SEC. They split carries, him and Rodney Hampton. That's why they didn't give him so many. They gave him so many touchdowns. Not he could maybe have like 2,000 yards that year.
What was it like playing against the defense in camp with the likes of Greg Lloyd, Rod Woodson, Carnell Lake? How much did that help you grow in your early years there?
Well, I just played in a golf tournament with Greg Lloyd last week, and we were talking about the same thing of how the games were a little more easier, back then than practice because of guys like Greg Lloyd and Kevin Green and David Little and LaVon Kirkland, all those guys on that defensive side. Those guys made us work, man. And we had difficult practices. We went out there and we hit. I mean, people don't believe this, but we practiced in Three Rivers Stadium on that horrible turf, and we had goal line live on Fridays before we played on Sundays.
Wow.
And see, one of the things, guys, that happens today, they don't really do that much. It's more skeleton and just studding up. But when you get in the game, that's why there's more injuries, man, because your body is not used to that.
Crazy. I don't know. I have crazy thing is, Tim, I literally am looking at a piece of that turf. I got it on eBay like a while ago, and I even like put my elbow on that sometimes. I'm like, I don't know how people played a physical game like football on this, and man, we came a long way. Let's just say that. Talk to me about Chuck Noll. You had the honor of playing for him. What was that like?
It was like a dream come true because number one, as a kid, I saw this guy. I saw him on TV. He was the general. He was the guy that won 4 Super Bowls before I ever saw the Steelers facility or field or put on a Steeler uniform. So he stood 20 feet tall to me, and there was a lot of respect. I found out later, guys, that Chuck Noll personally drafted me.
Wow.
And I found that out, and I didn't know. And he told me he didn't draft me because of my speed, my size, and my running ability. He said that was automatic. He said he drafted me because of my blocking ability.
Wow.
And if guys, coming from Georgia, I mean, line us up 8 yards deep, 7.5, 8 yards deep, pitches the ball and get out of the way. I'm 6'2.5", 230, running a 4.38, 4.4 in the 40. And here I am in a 3-point stance running the trap offense. it took me a while to adjust to that.
Yeah.
So, but it worked out.
Oh,
What would you say the number one thing that you learned from him? Like, everyone always talks so much about Tomlin, how he's just such like a, he cares about the player first, off the field. Just what was it, what was something that kind of stood out to you with Noll?
Well, Chuck Noll was he was more of a disciplinarian. He was and with Cowher was more of a player's coach. Tomlin's even more of that. But Chuck Noll was the type of coach, he had that spirit of the Tom Landrys and the Vince Dooleys and the Bear Bryants. And those were the type of guys, man, they kind of intimidated you. And for me, in my 20s, it was like, when he called me to the office, it was like going to the principal's office.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And but he taught me, man, so much. And he taught one of the things that he taught me about. A lot of guys won't talk about this. He taught me and told me about what it's going to take to be the best in Pittsburgh and throughout the entire league off the field. He didn't really talk about the stuff on the field because, I could play the game. But he taught me how to be able to go in there, have self-discipline, get your rest, do what you need to do because you're an employee now. You're not in a program no more. And so, you gotta get your proper rest because all that free time and you just got a ton of money deposited into your bank account. So he was like, there's gonna be a lot of things coming at you. So you gotta learn to say no and be disciplined because you have a job now. That's what he talked to me about. But I was hard-headed. I didn't listen.
You said it was like going to the principal's office. We all know what that's like, but I can't.
You know what that's like.
I can't imagine the principal being Chuck Noll, though. So that's just a great story. One more thing before I throw it back to Mike. You scored a touchdown in the playoffs, 1989. What was that moment like? Just scoring a touchdown, let alone in such a pivotal moment.
Well, to me, it was my very first. Number one, it was my rookie year, very first playoff game. We always heard about making it to the playoff, how you step it up a little bit, wild card. Nobody gave us a chance. So that season was pretty much a miracle, an awesome season. It was unbelievable because, just the way we scored the touchdown. I mean, I think it was the first touchdown we scored in the game. Gary Anderson ended up winning it with a field goal kick. But it was 4th and 1, and Chuck Noll, I thought we were going to kick the ball. He said, no, we're going to run a pitch to the right, score. He told me, he said, score. It'll be there. And so when he pitched the ball to me and I ran over the defensive back in Houston and I scored, man, it was like a moment that I don't even have words for, because the guys went crazy and you could see we were like kids, man, because nobody gave us a chance.
Were you nervous watching, or did you know?
I think it was Chris Dishman you ran over on the island. One of Rod Woodson's former teammates at Purdue. I remember that touchdown very well on 4th down.
Yeah.
Nobody gave it. I think we were 10-point underdogs heading to that game. Houston ran shot. That was the House of Pain era that they were running specifically back then in the Astrodome, and their offensive line was huge. The defensive line was massive with Childress and Fuller, and our offensive line, tight ends, and we're just eating. You and Merrill were just eating up the clock. Bubby had a couple of nice passes to Lewis Lips. Man, take me back. I don't think these guys were born in '89 yet. So
oh my goodness,
Did you guys?
You guys wasn't born, huh?
Did you have like whiteboard material back then? We talk about it so often now, but is there ever a part that's like, hey, 10-point underdogs, they expect us to kick our ass, like let's go in there with a different mindset because we're this big underdogs?
Well, yeah, we had that. Houston was that was that rivalry. We always talk about Pittsburgh and Cleveland, or Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, or even Dallas, but Houston, that was a battle. That was a brawl. And that was the time, man, when we could really, you got promoted and you got celebrated when you knocked folk out. You know what I mean? So there was a time, because we played Houston 3 times that year. One in Houston, once in Pittsburgh, and it snowed like crazy. And then in the playoffs. And when we went to Houston for the regular season game, Chuck Noll and what was Houston's coach name? Glanville. Glanville. Dude, they almost went to blows at the 50-yard line before the game even started. That's how intense it was, man. So they beat us twice in the season where we should have won the game where we played home and it snowed. We should have won that game because we played well. But to go in there in Houston and beat them in the Astrodome, it was unbelievable, man. I mean, it was just a moment that I'll cherish for the rest of my life.
Man, we love recalling these memories. We could absolutely talk about you all day, but I got to get to these current Steelers, man. And how much are you keeping up, first and foremost?
Oh, I keep up, man. I actually, I can't stay up late now for some reason.
Oh,
When you're close to the 60 now, then you're 30. I'm 58 now, man. So 10 o'clock, 10:30, I start getting sleepy. But I'm up every morning between 4:30 and 5 every morning. You know what I mean? And I'm the type of person, I take a nap. Like when I'm done with you guys, I'm going to take a nap, man.
Sounds good for all of us. All right, running back. What do you think about Najee Harris? Listen, from back to back, always love getting.
Oh man, I think so far, man, he's looking good. He's been consistent. And here's the thing with Najee. I think 2023 training camp. Najee reported, man, he looked like he was about 250. And I was like, wow, to myself. I'm like, Najee, you gotta lose weight, dude. So he came back this year, and even more now. He looks like he's about a good 228, maybe the most 230. And look how he's playing. He's shifty, he's got great balance. He's starting to look like he looked when he played for the Crimson Tide. Yeah. And that's what I like. I mean, and he's a smart, very intelligent football player. So I like what I'm seeing so far.
JY, I know you want to ask about another position that's interesting. You're a guy. You've been riding with him all along.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying since day one, and I know he was battling the calf injury, but I was putting my trust in Russ, and he's making Mike Tomlin look like a genius right now. Just kind of talk about the QB. I don't really think it's a battle. I think it's a good problem to have, and this being a former player, having a healthy competition. It just brings out the best, especially at the quarterback position. And it seems that we have that with Fields and Russell. But, yeah, I'm a Russell Wilson guy. So just talk about Russell Wilson and Fields a little bit for us.
Well, of course, tweaking the calf and training. I was there. I was there when he got hurt. So I was in training camp for a whole week there. And I saw what was taking place. Justin Fields came in, took over. He was the next man up. And see, guys, that's what you want. You want guys to have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder because it shows that you're competitive. You don't just want to sit back and you're rooting for the other guy. But guess what? Always be ready. Be ready. Be ready to strike. You know what I mean? Because anybody can go down at any given time. Justin Fields stepped up, did what he had to do. I think Justin overall is the more athletic quarterback. But I knew Russell Wilson still had that kind of play in him. The guy's pretty accurate. He puts the ball up there for Pickens because he knows Pickens will go get it. He does some things well on the run, throwing the ball that Justin Fields haven't quite yet developed yet. But I do believe they make a good 1-2. I heard that they're designing some plays for Justin Fields, and it kind of makes you think, guys, when they had Slash, Cordell Stewart. It kind of reminds you of that. And Justin Fields, he's going to get the tough runs when that quarterback has to run. So that's how I see it.
But like I said, a good problem to have, and you just backed it up. Hey, before we get you out of here, Tim, just tell everyone what are you up to nowadays? And you still attended Steeler games, and what are you doing outside of football? What has life been after football for you?
Family? Guys, you won't believe it. If you go back and look at my career and some of the things I got into off the field, I was young and dumb, but I'm in full-time ministry, man. I'm a traveling evangelist. I get a chance to preach different churches across the country, but not just churches, but different events, FCA, a lot of things. I get to speak to universities. I get to speak to high schools. And that's what I do with most of my time now, and just ministry, man, and counseling people.
does that seem like, obviously your first love is football, but this just seems like you found, another love, and it seems that you're passionate. I could just tell by the look on your face when you were telling us that. So
Yeah, I got to be honest, guys. Before Tim knew who Tim was, Tim didn't know who Tim was when he was a Steeler. But
yeah,
see, Tim know who Tim is now, so I'm Timothy now. I'm no longer Tim, right? And Timothy loves the Lord Jesus Christ more than anything, more than anything. Everything else is secondary or third.
amen.
So, yeah.
Took us to church today, that's for sure.
Well, hey,
Yes.
man, we really appreciate it. We'll have to do it again. Great career, and glad we were able to connect and keep it going, man. Keep preaching the good word.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Anytime you guys want me to come back on, just give me a holler, buddy.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. God bless, man.
Have a
Peace
good
out.
one.
All right.
It's
Yeah.
cool stuff. I mean, listen, reminiscing with a guy who might remember just as much as Tim Worley.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you were saying that, he was like looking, he's like, man, this guy knows his stuff. He said he knew the exact player that tackled him, the exact number of attempts. That's
Listen,
impressive.
If you guys ever get to watch it on YouTube, that Pittsburgh Steelers wild card win is one of the best playoff wins in the history of the Berg.
Really?
It was such a hard year. We at one point in time we were 3-5. We had given up multiple 30-point games to various teams we shouldn't even lost to. And something happened in the midseason where Chuck and Lovey Brister became the starter there. We simplified the offense. We got to the meat and potatoes. We're using a three-headed monster running back combination between Merrill Hodge, Tim, and Walter Abercrombie. The defense that year is when Greg Lloyd became Greg Lloyd, with Hardy Nickerson and David Little. And look, Rod Woodson was the star of that game. That fumble that he caused against Lorenzo White, and he picked it up at the same time. A couple of plays later, Gary Anderson never made a 50-yard field goal, and he makes one to win the game. If you want to go nostalgic, watch that game on YouTube.
Well, I'm gonna.
It's an awesome.
That 50-yard field was like an extra point.
It's nothing, but for Gary Anderson, who had no muscles, that was like a lifelong career.
He had the one bar.
The one bar,
We always thought of the same thing.
It's nostalgic to see that era of a team, how disparingly sizes were from linemen to linebackers, receivers, and then you get the special teams players that were so diminutive. Now you see guys like, I don't want to bring up his name, but our former punter, Percy Harvey, is the size of a linebacker back in the day. It changed dramatically, but back then it was old school football, size, weight, speed ratio. It's nostalgic. I don't know if the video will be as good because of the grain, but man, the sounds of the hits, almost every other play could have been a flag today.
Yeah, I would love to go back and watch that, man. I encourage our viewers to go check that out as well. It's just something that hits the feels, JY, about watching some old Steelers tape, like whether it's the 90s, 70s.
Days I just put on, and I know a lot of the times NFL films will have a lot of great stuff on, and it just makes you appreciate it. Even makes me, feel old now because I see some of these games, and I was young, but I remember, like, not to bring up a bad Super Bowl, but like the 95 Super Bowl, I just remember I was 5 years old, but it's just like the nostalgic of everything. Thanks, Neil O'Donnell. I just remember
those are the bad guys. Right?
Those are the bad guys.
Cowboys were the bad guys.
But yeah, it's cool, man. And it was so funny with Tim. Like, he was just, on the sidelines, and I knew he was someone. And then I looked, and I'm like, man, I remember my uncle always talking about him because he is a Georgia Bulldogs season ticket holder for literally like 40-something years. And that's how I introduced myself. And he was like cracking up, and he was like, yeah, so it's good to have him on the show. And I can't imagine what it's like being a first-round pick. So playing for Chuck Noll, Mike Tomlin, Cowher, I mean, it's this franchise is unbelievable. That's what, and we'll end on this, I think, because I see so many people on Twitter and online, like they want to like dissect every single thing about the Steelers. As I said it in the intro, we're 6-2 going into a bye week. Let me say that again. We're 6-2 going into a bye week, a chance that everyone get healthy. Now, I know that, and I'm not one of those people who go, the schedule's getting tough. It's the NFL. It doesn't matter if you're playing the bottom barrel teams. These are the best players in the world. It's any given Sunday. So just a lot of optimism. And you get hot at the right time, Mike. You say it all the time. That's all the Steelers need right now. And the AFC, obviously, you got to get through the Chiefs. But rather than that right now, I mean, I don't see too many other teams that are that scary that I'm like, trembling. So it's going to be an exciting second half of the season.
Can't wait, man. Can't wait. Great show.
All right. Well, make sure you guys subscribe. Thank you again, Dane, for coming on the Sick Podcast, Steeler Crazy. Sammy, take it away.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Steelers Crazy on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.